So this is a medium super, the bottom medium super for one of my hives that had this plastic, or not this plastic, this silver bubble wrap around it. And I put that wrap around a lot of my hives because everyone was telling me, you gotta wrap your hives, man, if you want strong spring colonies. And it turned out to be the opposite for me. Now there may have been other factors, but as it turns out, every colony that I wrapped had moisture issues. Moldy frames like this, making the bees sick, keeping the dampness in, it seems. And this one isn't too bad. This one's actually pretty mild compared to a couple of hives that I've had to dig into this spring. So there's a little bit of mold, and even this, I don't like to see that much mold. And there's lots of honey, but I think it's got so damp that the bees just, couldn't control it. And you can see and this one isn't too bad compared to some of the other ones I've had to dig through. And these frames are still okay, but they're damp. They're all wet. The wood is wet. Everything is just almost like waterlogged. And so I'm not 100% sold on that silver bubble wrap as insulation. You can see this hive it wasn't painted. You can see what the wrap does. It holds the moisture close to the hive, and then the wood starts to, get moldy. And turning gray is normal, but I don't think this amount of mold and moisture inside the hive, well, it's not normal for me anyway. And all of my colonies, even the strong ones that were wrapped, were knocked back, it seems, by all this moisture that got stuck inside the hives. And as far as I can tell, I just don't know what I did. I used a variety of wrapping methods, and for the most part, it was well sealed, and I don't know, I'm not sure what I did wrong. It's possible I overlooked something crucial. But I mean, there's a whole box full of honey, and it's all slightly moldy. So this year, I tell you, this is how many so far, how many medium supers of drawn comb and honey that I've had to pull out from hives that are basically not viable this spring. And every one of them was wrapped in the silver bubble wrap. Now, I'm not blaming the silver bubble wrap, but that's how it's lined up anyway. That's the only thing right now that's lined up. I also used silver furnace tape to seal the cracks between some of my supers. And but anyway, I've never had anything like this. Like I've been using these defective supers for years, so I always fill in the cracks between them with duct tape or whatever. And I don't know if it was a combination of the silver bubble wrap and the furnace tape, but whatever it is, every single hive that had that has got mold issues, and one of them had really bad mold issues, and they've all been knocked back, every single one. And they all had plenty of honey, so it wasn't a starvation issue. It was just the insides of those hives were damp all winter, and I used my normal methods of upper ventilation, which was just basically an upper ventilation rim with a bit of absorbent material up top, and which has worked in all my other colonies that didn't get the wrap, but the ones with the wrap, man, I don't know. And this one, this is a candy board somebody made for me, or a sugar board, and the bees. It worked really well. But again, this hive was wrapped, and the bottom box was packed with honey, and the bees were ignoring it because I'm pretty sure it was because it was damp. So I've reduced them down to a 5-frame medium nuke, which is not very big. So I'm gonna just, I don't know. And I've got 3 5-frame medium nukes on the go right now. All of them were wrapped. All of them had moisture issues. So this is the worst, definitely the worst winter I've ever had for moisture issues. And normally, I got out of wrapping my hives for the longest time, until everyone kept telling me, look, man, you're going to have stronger colonies in the spring if you just wrap them. and this stuff was all the rage, and it hasn't paid off at all. There's no correlation for me. I mean, the strongest hives are the ones that weren't wrapped. They didn't have any moisture issues. I'm trying to figure out why I've had so many bad moisture issues this year, and why my colonies were just so knocked back by whatever. In terms of upper ventilation and you just sort of working out the moisture inside the hives, I didn't do anything really different this year, so that should have been the same. The only thing I did differently was I wrapped them with this stuff, and I sealed in the cracks between some of the supers with that silver furnace tape. And I did lower the upper entrances in a couple of the hives, but most of them I didn't. I'm not sure that makes any difference. I mean, maybe it's just there's a wet winter, I don't know. But I don't normally see this. I see a little bit of moisture buildup in my hives sometimes, like just on the edges, on the bottom and something like that. But every single hive that was wrapped, I mean, all those supers right there, they're full of mold. They're all from hives that were wrapped. So, I don't know. I might go back to not wrapping and just keep my hives painted black. Just go back to what I've always done. Because, I don't know, I like to experiment. I like to make mistakes. But this experiment, seems to have cost me 5 colonies. Either way, this summer is not going to be a honey production summer, even if I wanted to. But I didn't want to. I want to focus on making bees this summer. And I think I enjoy making bees more than I do making honey. And I think it'll be fun. I just need these what few colonies I have left to make it through, because I've got 2 on another location that are in fantastic shape. I've got this 5-frame nuke and 2 other 5-frame nukes, and I've got this one and this one. So really I have 4 what I would call viable colonies, and the rest of them are just sort of nukes, little tiny nukes. So yeah, all down from 10. But I've got plenty of drawn comb now, so and it must be great for people who can just order in nukes and order in mated queens and all that jazz, because this is it. This is probably all I'm going to be able to manage. I doubt I'm going to get any brood from anybody or anything from anyone. This is it. I think most beekeepers in Newfoundland are on their own when it comes to resources for the most part. And so that's it. I have to assume that this is all I got to work with. If I could get, it's funny how you see something like this and it looks kind of like a disaster for me. But if I could get at the crucial time, if I had, say, 5 frames of cap brood, I could turn everything. Even 1 frame of cap brood can make a difference. It's a tough haul, man. But if I come out through this summer with 10 strong, robust colonies ready to go into the winter without me having to load them up with sugar syrup and all that jazz, that'll be fantastic. I would love it. But right now it's just like anything could still happen. Like, I could just end up with hardly nothing. And you go from 10 to practically 0. Just like that. This is my little bee yard as it is today. There's this. So there's that hive, which I think are in pretty good shape, but they're not crazy. They're not incredible. They're not busting loose with bees. I've got another location with 2 hives where they are busting loose with bees, and then I've got 3 little tiny nukes. So anyway, good times. So I'm going to clean all this up now and relax. Call it a day. There's some bees digging into some pollen supplement.